Good evening, my friends, and welcome back to my channel. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry. It didn't. I didn't get to do a video last night. I actually fell asleep on the couch, and I wake up at 4 in the morning. So sorry, I missed yesterday's recording. So you will get a recording today instead. I hope that's okay. But I probably needed it, so I am a bit less tired today. Okay, I have got so many questions about my painted paper that I use in my journals, and I thought I could answer the questions today and paint with you at the same time. So if you not already have any paper and colors and something to paint on beside you, please go and get it. Pause the video and find something nice to paint on and paint with. Acrylics, watercolor, crayons, pens. Take whatever you have and play a little bit with me today. Just have fun and relax, and don't think about that you're going to make some art. We are just going to do background pages and things to tear apart and decorate with in the journals. So don't be afraid. Please go and try this out, because it's so fun when you get to that state when you really relax and just get into the flow. I often use old book pages, and I don't like the shiny ones. They are difficult to paint on, and I don't like them in my journals. So these are really old, but you can take just from an ordinary book that you are going to throw away. You can find them at thrift stores for almost nothing. So those are one of the things that I often use. And I also use botanical prints from old books. And these are a bit more shiny, but not so you can see any really shininess on them as in the magazine. So these works well to just paint on right away. Then if you want to use ordinary copy paper, these are 80 grams copy paper, and I have put gesso on them. First I have splashed on some coffee, and then I actually put gesso on one side. So if you want to use it like this in journal and you want to paint on them, you can do that, but it will seep through and you will get water on both sides that will change the thing you have painted. So then you need to put gesso on both sides. And for those of you that don't know what gesso is, it's a medium that you put on your paper that makes the paper not soaking up your water the same way. So it's protecting the paper from the water. It will you will still be able to paint on it, but it won't bleed at the same way. The paper won't soak up the water and the color as if it's not protected. And I'm going to show you that also today, how I do that. So that's ordinary copy paper, and these are already painted on one side. I had them with me in the forest in case I should have time to paint some more. So I often also use newsprint paper. And you can also use this thin paper that you often can get in the store when you are buying plates or glass or something that is fragile. Then you often get these to wrap it on. And the most common way is to use a brush, and you just brush it on like you do with paint. And I always make sure that I have gesso all the way to the side, because when I start to paint and draw, it often kind of continues. So I often get to the edge of the paper, and if that's not gessoed, I will paint and then it will get another color or bleed through or bleed away. So that's not so fun. Then I will also show you to paint on a bit of textile. And I actually forget to take something, so I need to go and get that later on. I need something that isn't painted on already. But let's do this first, and then we can leave this to dry while we do some other painting. So I often use a old plastic card, just because I like the way that it looks on the paper. When you put on gesso with a brush, you often get these kind of strokes and lines. And when it dries, you can still see them. And if you like texture and want it kind of to be thick and like this, that's perfect. But if you want a thin, straight line, this is a really, really good way. Then you just take your card and do like this. And make sure that it's really flat all the way. Make sure you have something under your paper so that you not need to be afraid when you go over the edge with your gesso. And gesso is really nice because it dries super fast, and when you have painted one or two of your papers, the first one are already dry. And you can dry it with your hairdryer, that's also okay. And if you think that it dries too fast, you can just put in some water. Then I'm just doing like this and using up all of my gesso by spreading it with my card. And if you would not get gesso on some part, it's no catastrophic thing that happens. You can it's nothing that happens more than that your color will be a little bit different. But we are not doing any masterpieces, we are just playing, so this is more to protect the paper than anything to do with the color. Can leave a little bit here that it's not gesso on, so that you can see the difference when we paint. Like that. And it's also gives the paper a really nice feeling, almost like very thin rubber when you have the gesso have dried. So it feels very strong, and that you almost can do anything with it. So the gesso, it's not expensive, and there are also ways to do it, make it yourself. I don't think it's so expensive, so I don't want to put any time on doing that. So if you're using a lot of gesso, it can maybe be a way to save some money, but this can has been the only one I have used for, say, like 3 years. So it will last a long time. And let's put some gesso on one of the papers from the old book too, so that you can see the difference. So I'm leaving these to dry for a bit, and then I will be back with some textile and also with the paint, so we can start painting some background pages together. So I have picked up my watercolors, and these are also watercolors, but they are Japanese, so they are a little bit more like gouache, not so transparent as ordinary watercolor. And I have just made some circles with my punch on a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to use this as a stencil. And then I'm just doing some painting straight onto these papers. No problem at all. It stays in place perfectly. And then I'm just playing when I have these botanicals. I'm just taking some of the colors that could have been used on the paintings. So it looks like in a sketchbook when you just put down your colors to remember what you used and what should go with what. So on this paper it's really easy. You can just go in without thinking so much of what you need to prepare or something like that. Okay, I have another recording that you can see me do just botanicals and how I decorate them with stamps and labels and things like that. If I remember, I will try to link that below, but it's in my list of recordings, so you can find it. So let's put that aside, and let's take one of the book pages. This was the one we put gesso on. So I will show you how the color floats on this one. And I'm just going in with different colors. I'm not painting any pattern or flowers or anything like that. I'm just putting in colors to make the page more interesting. You can also use a stencil. And that way get some ornaments or letters, numbers, or something like that you would like to but the colors dries very beautifully on the gesso. So if you give it a little bit of a flow so it can move where it would like to, it often gives you a really nice outcome. And on some of them I just put brown on the edges so they look really old, and some of them I do maybe a little painting or a little scribbling. So this is one of the papers that are not gessoed. It's just exactly as it is, taken straight from a book. And you will see that it stays nicely into inside the lines. So on these old papers it's no problem to just paint straight onto the paper. So let's say you want it to bleed a little bit, then you can just go in with some clear water and touch this and let it flow away. Then you get this little feeling of loose painting. But don't go in and touch the leaves. Just put in the top of your brush and let the color flow out by itself. Fill in with some more so you can see it better. The color follows the water, so if you put water like this on the outside and just touch it, it will go with the piece of paper there. Go with the color. So you can see it follows the water outside the leaf. So that's a nice way to do a loose watercolor painting, if you just touch it with water and let it flow out like that. Okay, that was the book page 3. So now we can go to one of the big ones and see if we can do some kind of fun background page. And if it scares you that it's a big paper that is a bit, you don't know what to do with it, what to paint or what to think of this, where will I start? I often just take a pen. You can take an ordinary pen and just scribble and do some marks. Or you can go in with these kind of watercolor pens. This is a Stabilo Woody, and this is like a crayon. So you can make marks like this. And this is water soluble, so when I go in with my watercolor, this will loosen up and give some nice touch into the color. Just to show you a little bit how it works. So like going in like this, now you can see the black starts to bleed and gives the blue color a little soft touch of black. And you don't need to do any patterns, or you can just fill the paper with color and make beautiful backgrounds like this. Now you can see that it's getting a lot darker than the brown as it blends with the black. You can do the same with these leaves. You can see they are quite light green, but if I go to the edge, this black will loose up and make a dark edge. On the leaf. And sometimes it's really nice to have these pens, and you can use them before or after the wet watercolor. Wetting the black so you can see how they bleed before I put in the green. The same with these one. I often want to fill them totally. I don't want any white gaps as I'm going to use them as backgrounds. Then I leave them to dry a little bit and then go in with some background colors. Let's do some of these. Then I will also show you these that is permanent for water, but now that they are on to the gesso, you can already see that they don't like the gesso. And if I now go in with my brush, you can see even if it says permanent and waterproof, when it's on gesso, that won't work. So you will get black to flow into your colors. So you can do this when you already have painted it and it has dried, then you can go in with your pen and make the circles more round if you would like to. And this is so fun. You can go totally wild with your colors and kind of just play. And if you don't want to do your own pattern, use the stencils and make something that you can use. And this is just cheap thin paper, and you can always wrap it up and tear it apart and use it as collage paper if you think that it's absolutely too ugly to use. But if you just think about the colors and that they are nice to look at. It's much more easy. But it's totally okay to use a stencil like this if you don't want to have some loose scribbling that you have made yourself. But I always say like that people won't learn to paint if they are YouTube painters. And by that I mean you can get inspiration to a level, but then you actually need to go out and do the work. And you don't need to buy expensive watercolor papers and feel that you're wasting it. Do like this, use copy paper, put on a bit of gesso if you would like to, and practice and play and have fun. It's more like when you do this, your body is and your mind is so happy. It's relaxing and you don't get stressed from it. And nobody needs to see it. You can just play, have it in an old, you can take an old book, kind of like this one, and just use that as a art journal or a sketchbook. And I'm thinking also a bit like that when I do my sketchbooks with the watercolor. I'm not painting to do masterpieces to put on someone's wall. I'm painting to make my brain remember how I felt when I did the painting. Often you do paintings on beaches or a place where you are happy and it feels good. You think something is beautiful and you want to paint it. So when I have done the painting, I in my sketchbook, I know that I will remember it. The next time I open my sketchbook, I get this feeling I had when I painted the picture. So I'm going to put this away now, and then we are going to do one more thing. We are going to paint a bit on a piece of textile. So back in a minute. Okay, let's do a little piece of textile before we wrap it up and look how it turned out when it has dried. So when I'm going to paint on textile, I'm using something thin. And this is just cotton from an old pillowcase. So just make sure that it is washed. So if you go maybe to IKEA or something and buy a big sheet of cotton, you need to make sure that it's washed, so you get this protection layer out of the textile. But this is really old. This is from the beginning of 1900, so this has been washed several times, and I am just wetting it properly. And this is just because I can control the colors a bit better when the textile isn't soaking up the watercolor as much. I'm going to take a piece of textile, no, paper under it, so you can see the color properly. So say that we want to have a pattern, and you want a flower. So then you can use a pen and sketch it before if you would think that you need that. But you can always go in with a pen, ink pen later on. So when I do my flowers, I just think how they could look. So I'm taking almost concentrated color because it dries so much more light. So don't be afraid to go in with the color. Then I'm just touching like this. That way I can see how much the water bleed. Touching again. This way I can kind of put my petals for the flower where I want them. As it's already wet, it won't soak too much. So just touching and see how big the circle want to be. And if you want to bigger, you can just touch it again and it will bleed out. As you can see, it don't stop bleeding right away. So if you are doing something special that you want the lines to be totally secured, make sure that you move your circles far away. So they have a lot of space to bleed on. When I'm taking the water, I'm taking a piece of paper and then I dry it off a bit. And then I go in and take on color on my brush. And so I take the water first, then the concentrated color. And you don't need to have tubes, you can just use ordinary watercolor, or take your kids' color they use when they play. If you think that the color still is fading too much, you can go in with another layer when they have dried a little bit. So doing the same with the green. I'm touching it a little bit away so I can see how much it bleeds if I don't want it to go near the flower. When I have my water control and know how much it bleeds, I can move on a little bit further and quicker. So I'm starting a little bit away, so away from the flower, so I don't get the bleed to touch the flower if I don't want that. And let's put something in the middle. What should we go with? Pink maybe? Or a bit of lilac? So I'm just dabbing a little dab in the middle until I can see how much it's going to bleed. That way you can water a bit more if that's what you're looking for. Then you can of course do it much more loosely and do fantasy flowers. So let's take some, let's blend a little bit. So then I can just a bit more this part, and then I can just go in and say that this is red flowers on far away, on a field maybe. And when these have dried, you can go in with your ink pen and mark them out a little bit more if you would like to. And maybe draw flowers on top of the color. Let's do one more. So let's go in with this one again. Let's say that we want a more controlled pattern. And then we maybe want something like this, or maybe a dragonfly. Changing the brush. Then I'm going in and wet this part. And the same again, I'm starting from the middle so I can see about how much the water is spreading. Then I can go in with my color and do the same again. I'm dabbing from the middle and out, so that way I have control over my color. dabbing off some water. And going in for the body of the dragonfly. Now you can see that you have the control over the fleece, so you don't have paint that are all over. Going in with almost a dry brush, just putting on more color and giving the dragonfly a little bit more. Dabbing into the pattern, doing the same, so I'm controlling the water. Then I can leave those for a little while and see how far they bleed. These are dry. So if I do like this with the color, it will stay there, but then I can just go in with the clear water, give it a little drop, and it will start to move. But then you can see you don't have the control over the water. So then when you put in the water, it can start to bleed too much and go outside the circle. So by putting the water first, you have a lot more control than if you do like this and take color and then the water. So when these have dried a little bit more, you can just go in with a bit more color and fill the squares. I guess it's a little bit too early now, but you know what I mean. Now you can see these are bleeding outside the pattern. And you can see the black is moving, but if you're all right with that, that's fine. You can do some new lines with the ink pen when it has dried. So this was the book page, and you can see it's a really cute way of making a background page. Just dab on the color and it's beautiful. Then we did this one, and now when it's dry we can go in and make some pattern if we would like to. So let's say that we want patterns in the circles. We can do circles in the circles, or maybe do lines in them. And this way the black won't bleed. Can I outline them a little bit more? And now it's totally okay when it's dry, and you can use your ink pen and make the line you want. And you can also go in with this if you would like to have more distinct lines in black. Now that it's dry, it won't move. Like that. So there are a few tricks and tips that you can get, but the most important is that you need to start painting and learn how the paint move, and it's water control and color control. So depending on how much water you use, it will move. So this was another one that I did that has dried now, and I did this dragonfly just loosely because I didn't want the black to be so floating around and get muddy in the colors. Now I can go in with my pen and do my dragonfly with clear black lines, and it won't bleed. So you can kind of do your patterns first, and then you can go in with your pen and make some delicate thin lines for your pattern. Do some thin veins on them too. And now you can see this is totally different from when you have this black pen first. So this is so much more thin and light. Something like that. You can use the stencil, and you can also, when you just use this kind of pen first, you can even erase it. If you don't paint outside this line, you can just take them away, or you can outline them afterwards like this. So as long as they are dry, it's totally okay to go in with the ink pen. But make sure they are totally dry or you will destroy your ink pen. She don't like the gesso wet. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I hope that this will help you going. So go and have fun, pick out your colors and just enjoy when the color is floating around on your paper. So I will be back with more of the journal. I have done all the background pages now, so we can continue to do the fun part with the decorating. So see you soon again. Bye bye from Sweden.